Jake Morrison knew he was going to die in space. His ship was broken and floating near a small moon. The engines had stopped working 3 days ago, and the air was getting bad. He had tried everything, but nothing worked. Earth was too far away, and no one could hear his calls for help. The USS Horizon had been his home for 6 months. Jake was exploring new star systems when something went wrong with the main power core. Sparks flew everywhere and alarms screamed warnings. He managed to stop the ship from exploding, but now it was just drifting in empty space. The life support systems were failing and he had maybe 2 days of air left. Jake sat in his captain's chair and looked out at the stars. He had always known this job was dangerous. Space exploration meant going where no human had gone before. Sometimes that meant not coming back. He recorded one last message for his family back on Earth and then closed his eyes to wait. That was when the blue light appeared outside his window. At first, Jake thought he was seeing things. The light was soft and warm and seemed to be moving around his ship. Then he heard sounds he had never heard before. Something was touching the outside of his hull. Jake grabbed his emergency suit and weapons, but then stopped. If aliens wanted to hurt him, they would have done it already. The airlock opened with a hiss. Jake had not opened it. 3 figures floated into his ship wearing strange suits that seemed to be alive. They were tall and thin with blue skin that looked like scales. Their eyes were large and kind. One of them held up a device that made sounds Jake did not understand. The alien pressed some buttons and suddenly Jake could understand the words. "We are here to help," the device said in a voice that sounded like water flowing over rocks. "Your body is sick from bad air. We can fix this, but you must come with us." Jake looked at the 3 aliens. They had not pointed weapons at him or demanded anything. Their body language seemed peaceful. The one who spoke kept his hands open where Jake could see them. Jake was dying anyway, so he nodded and said, "Okay." The aliens moved quickly, but gently. They put something over Jake's face that helped him breathe better right away. Then they carried him through a tunnel of light to their own ship. Jake had never seen anything like it. The walls seemed to be growing and the lights pulsed like a heartbeat. Everything was curved and smooth like the inside of a shell. They put Jake on a soft surface that felt warm against his skin. One alien ran a device over his body while the others watched. Jake could hear them talking in their musical language. The device in his hand kept translating their words. "His lungs are damaged," one said. "The poison in his air has hurt his blood," said another. "We can heal this, but it will take time." The alien who had first spoken to Jake came closer. "I am Keth," the translator said. "We saw your ship in trouble. Our leaders say we should not help other species, but I could not watch you die. My friends agreed to help. We will make you well again." Jake tried to sit up but felt very weak. "Thank you," he said. "I am Jake Morrison from Earth. Why are you helping me when your leaders say not to?" Keth touched a panel and pictures appeared in the air showing Jake's damaged organs. "All life is valuable," Keth said. "We know what it means to be alone and afraid. Long ago, our people were hurt by others who came from the stars. Many died. The few who lived decided to hide from everyone. But hiding is not living." Over the next few days, Jake learned more about the Zilani. They were peaceful people who had once lived on a beautiful world, with blue oceans and silver cities. Then ships came from somewhere far away. The newcomers called themselves the Dominion, and they wanted to make the Zilani into slaves. The Zilani were not fighters, so many were captured. Those who escaped found this hidden moon and had been hiding ever since. Jake stayed with the Zilani for 6 months while they fixed his damaged body. Their medicine was like nothing humans had ever seen. Instead of machines, they used living things that could heal and repair. Jake watched his lungs get stronger and his blood get cleaner. The Zilani doctors said he would live much longer now than before. During his time with them, Jake learned their language and their ways. He helped them with small tasks and shared stories about Earth and humans. The Zilani were amazed that humans explored space even when it was dangerous. "You are brave," Keth told him. "We used to be explorers too before we learned to be afraid." Jake met all 12,000 Zilani who lived on the hidden moon. They had built their city inside caves and grown their food in underground gardens. Their technology was amazing, but they used it only to hide and survive. Jake could see the sadness in their eyes when they talked about their lost homeworld. When Jake was finally healthy enough to travel, the Zelani gave him a small ship and supplies for the journey to Earth. Keth came to say goodbye and pressed a small device into Jake's hand. "This contains the location of our home," Keth said. "We trust you not to tell others unless you need help. If your people are ever in trouble, we will try to help just as we helped you." Jake looked at his new friend and made a promise. "If your people ever need help, I will make sure humans come to help you. I give you my word as a human and as your friend." Keth's scaled face showed what Jake had learned was a Zelani smile. "I believe you, Jake Morrison. Travel safely." As Jake's ship left the hidden moon behind, he looked back one more time. The Zelani had saved his life when they could have ignored him. They had shared their medicine and their friendship. Now Jake was going home with their secrets and their trust. He hoped he would never have to use the location device. But if the time came, he would keep his promise. Jake Morrison did not know that in 2 years he would need to keep that promise. He did not know that the Dominion was still out there looking for the Zelani. He did not know that saving one human would lead to the biggest war the galaxy had ever seen. All he knew was that good people had saved him and he owed them everything. The small ship turned toward Earth and began the long journey home. 2 years after Jake Morrison returned to Earth, everything had changed. He was now the most famous human alive because he was the first person to meet friendly aliens. The Zelani medicine he brought back had saved millions of lives. Doctors could now fix diseases that used to kill people, and humans were living much longer, healthier lives. Jake worked with the best scientists on Earth to study Zelani technology. Dr. Lisa Parker ran the team that tried to understand how alien medicine worked. She was amazed by what the Zelani could do. "They don't fight disease," she explained to Jake. "They convince the body to heal itself. It's like they speak the same language as living cells." The world governments had created the Terran Defense Council to handle alien contact. Admiral Kate Sullivan was in charge of preparing Earth's military for what might come from space. She had read Jake's reports about the Dominion many times. "These Dominion people sound very dangerous," she told Jake. "If they find Earth, we need to be ready." Jake had tried to contact the Zelani several times but got no answer. Their location device stayed quiet. He hoped they were safe on their hidden moon, but something felt wrong. The feeling got worse when Earth's new deep space sensors picked up strange signals near the Kepler system where the Zelani lived. The signals were not natural. They were organized patterns that looked like ship communications. Jake knew what they meant even before the UR computers finished translating them. The Dominion had found the Zelani. Jake rushed to Dr. Parker's lab with the terrible news. She was studying the intercepted messages when he arrived. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. "Jake, you need to see this," she said. "I've decoded some of their communications. There are 30 Dominion warships heading for the Zelani moon. They'll arrive in 3 weeks. Jake felt sick to his stomach. The gentle people who had saved his life were about to be attacked by an enemy they could not fight. "How many soldiers are on those ships?" he asked. Dr. Parker checked her notes. "About 50,000 troops according to their supply manifests. Jake, the Zelani don't have any weapons. They'll be wiped out or enslaved within hours." Jake knew what he had to do. He called Admiral Sullivan and asked for an emergency meeting with the Terran Senate. Within 6 hours, he was standing before the most powerful people on Earth, asking them to risk everything for aliens most humans had never met. "The Zelani saved my life when they could have let me die," Jake told the senators. "They gave us medical technology that has saved millions of human lives. Now they're about to be destroyed by an empire that enslaves entire worlds. We have to help them." Senator William Cross was the first to object. He was an older man who believed humans should worry about human problems. "Captain Morrison, I understand your feelings, but you're asking us to go to war with an empire that controls half the galaxy. We have 47 warships. They have thousands. This would be suicide." Other senators agreed with Cross. Senator Mary Johnson stood up and said, The Zilani chose to hide instead of fight for their own homeworld. Why should we die for people who won't defend themselves? Jake felt anger rising in his chest but kept his voice calm. The Zilani are not cowards. They're peaceful people who never learned how to make war. That doesn't make them weak. It makes them different from us. They saved one human when they didn't have to. Now we need to save all of them. Admiral Sullivan had been quiet during the debate, but now she spoke. I've studied the tactical situation. The Dominion fleet is powerful, but they're used to fighting enemies who surrender quickly. They've never faced humans in combat. Our ships are smaller but faster. Our weapons are different from anything they've seen. Most importantly, we have something they don't expect. What's that? Asked Senator Cross. We have Zilani biotechnology integrated into our ships, Admiral Sullivan replied. Our medical systems can keep crews fighting when they should be dead. Our computers can adapt during battle because they're partially alive. We might be outnumbered, but we won't be outmatched. President Alex Turner had been listening to everything, without speaking. Now he stood up and looked around the room. The question before us is simple, he said. What kind of people are we? Do we abandon friends who saved us because helping them might be dangerous? Or do we stand by those who stood by us? The debate went on for hours. Some senators worried about Earth being discovered by the Dominion. Others argued that humans had a duty to protect innocent people. Jake answered hundreds of questions about Zilani capabilities and Dominion tactics. He could see that many senators were scared, and he understood why. Finally, President Turner called for a vote. Jake held his breath as the senators made their choice. The final count was close, but the result was clear. Earth would send a fleet to help the Zilani. Admiral Sullivan immediately began planning Operation Sanctuary. Every available warship would be loaded with troops and supplies. The industrial ships that built things in space would follow the fleet to make more weapons and equipment during the journey. It would be the largest military operation in human history. Jake asked to command the advance team that would warn the Zilani about what was coming. President Turner agreed and gave Jake a fast stealth ship with a small crew. They would reach the Zilani moon days before either the human or Dominion fleets arrived. As Jake prepared for departure, he thought about Keth and the other Zilani who had saved his life. They were peaceful people who just wanted to live quietly and safely. Now they were caught in a war they never asked for. Jake hoped the human fleet would be enough to protect them. Dr. Parker came to see Jake before he left. She handed him a case full of new medical supplies designed specifically for treating Zilani injuries. Bring them back safely, she said. All of them Jake promised he would try. As his ship launched toward the Kepler system, he wondered if he was leading his people into a war they could not win. But then he remembered Keth's words about how all life was valuable. The Zilani had risked their safety to save one human. Now, it was time for humans to risk everything to save them all. Admiral Kate Sullivan had never seen anything like the preparations for Operation Sanctuary. Every shipyard on Earth was working around the clock. Cargo ships were being turned into warships. Old military vessels were being rebuilt with new weapons. The entire human fleet was getting ready for the biggest fight in their history. Fleet Admiral Ryan Stone was chosen to command the rescue mission. He was a tough man who had served in the Space Navy for 30 years. Stone had read every report about Dominion tactics and knew they were facing a powerful enemy. We're not just fighting for the Zilani, he told his officers. We're fighting to show the galaxy that bullies can be stopped. The biggest problem was weapons and supplies. Earth's factories could make what the fleet needed, but the journey to Kepler would take weeks. Chief Engineer Ben Hayes came up with a solution that had never been tried before. He would send factory ships with the fleet that could build weapons and ammunition while traveling through space. The idea is simple, Hayes explained to Admiral Sullivan. Instead of carrying everything we might need, we'll make it during the trip. Our industrial ships can work in space just like the ones that build orbital stations. If we run out of missiles, we'll make more. If we lose fighters, we'll build replacements. Admiral Sullivan liked the plan but worried about one thing. What if the factory ships get attacked? Without them, the fleet will run out of supplies quickly. Hayes had thought about that too. We'll spread the factories throughout the fleet and give each one heavy protection. Even if we lose some of them, the Others can keep working. It's like having Earth's entire industrial power with us in space. While the fleet prepared, Jake Morrison was racing toward the Zalani moon in his stealth ship. He had a small crew of volunteers who knew they might not come home. Lieutenant Lucy Brooks was his second in command, and Sergeant Mike Torres led the small group of Marines who would help defend the Zalani if needed. Jake's ship was fast and quiet, but the journey still took 10 days. Every day brought them closer to the Dominion fleet that was heading for the same destination. Jake used the time to plan what he would say to the Zalani Council. He knew they would be scared and might not want human help. When Jake's ship finally reached the hidden moon, he was relieved to see that the Zalani city was still there. His old friend Keth was waiting at the docking bay with tears in his large eyes. "Jake Morrison," Keth said through his translator. "I hoped we would see you. Again, but not like this." Jake hugged his friend and tried to stay positive. "We're here to help, Keth. Earth is sending a fleet to protect you from the Dominion." Keth led Jake to the council chamber where Elder Zara and the other Zalani leaders were waiting. Elder Zara was very old and had lived through the destruction of the Zalani homeworld. She looked at Jake with sad eyes and spoke in a tired voice. "Captain Morrison, we are grateful for your friendship, but we cannot accept your help. If humans fight the Dominion here, they will learn about Earth. Your people will suffer the same fate as ours. We have survived by hiding, and we will continue to hide." Jake had expected this reaction, but it still frustrated him. "Elder Zara, the Dominion has already found you. Their fleet will be here in days. Hiding won't work anymore. You need to fight or you need to run. We're here to help you do both." Other council members agreed with Elder Zara. They had spent generations avoiding the Dominion and did not want to bring humans into the war. But some of the younger Zalani supported Jake's plan. Keth spoke up during the debate. "Our parents and grandparents hid from the Dominion and survived," Keth said. "But surviving is not living. We have the chance to fight back with allies who came across the galaxy to help us. Maybe it's time to stop being afraid." The council argued for hours while Jake waited. He knew the human fleet was still days away, and the Dominion ships were getting closer. Finally, Elder Zara made a decision that surprised everyone. "We will prepare for battle," she announced. "Not because we want war, but because Captain Morrison's people are willing to die for us. That kind of friendship deserves the same loyalty in return." The Zalani began working immediately to turn their peaceful moon into a fortress. They had powerful technology, but most of it was designed for healing and building rather than fighting. Jake worked with Keth and the other engineers to create weapons from medical equipment. Surgical lasers became gun turrets. Medical scanners became targeting systems. Lieutenant Brooks coordinated with Zalani technicians to build orbital defense platforms around the moon. The platforms used a combination of human weapons and Zalani biotechnology. "These defenses won't stop the Dominion fleet," she told Jake, "but they might slow them down until Admiral Stone arrives." Sergeant Torres trained willing Zalani in basic combat techniques. Most had never held weapons before, but they learned quickly. "They're not natural fighters," he reported to Jake, "but they're smart and determined. If the Dominion troops land on the surface, they'll face more resistance than they expect." 3 days before the human fleet was scheduled to arrive, the Dominion advance scouts appeared at the edge of the system. Jake watched the enemy ships approach through the Zalani observation sensors. The Dominion vessels were dark and angular with weapon ports covering their hulls. They looked like machines built only for destruction. The lead Dominion ship sent a message to the moon demanding immediate surrender. The voice was cold and mechanical. "This system is now under Dominion control. All inhabitants will report for processing and assignment. Resistance will result in elimination." Elder Zara activated the communication system and replied, "This moon is under the protection of the Zalani Human Alliance. Leave this system immediately or face the consequences." There was a long silence before the Dominion commander responded. His voice sounded confused and angry. "Human, this species is not in our database. You have allied with an unknown military power. This complicates our mission parameters." Jake smiled as he listened to the exchange. The Dominion knew about thousands of species they had conquered, but they had never heard of humans. That ignorance might be the edge Earth's fleet needed. The Dominion scout ships began scanning the moon and its defenses. Jake could see them analyzing the orbital platforms and trying to understand the hybrid human-Zilani technology. What they found clearly puzzled them because they sent several more detailed scans. Finally, the scout ships withdrew to the outer system to wait for their main fleet. Jake knew they were reporting back to their commanders about the unexpected complications they had discovered. The Dominion had planned to conquer a small group of hiding aliens. Instead, they were about to face a species they knew nothing about. Let them wonder what humans can do, Jake told Keth as they watched the enemy ships retreat. In 2 days they'll find out. War Commander Thax had conquered 12 worlds for the Dominion Empire. He was used to easy victories against species that surrendered after the first attack. The mission briefing had described the Zilani as peaceful refugees with no military capability. It should have been a simple capture operation, but now Thax was looking at something he had never seen before. The target moon was surrounded by defense platforms that his scanners could not fully identify. The technology seemed to be a mixture of different systems, some of which were completely unknown. Worse yet, the inhabitants claimed to have allies called humans. "What do we know about this human species?" Thax asked his intelligence officer. Lieutenant Commander Vex checked the Dominion database. "Nothing, sir. There is no record of any species called human in our files. They must be from an unexplored region." Thax studied the tactical display showing 30 Dominion warships against unknown defenses. He had overwhelming firepower, but something about the situation felt wrong. In 300 years of expansion, the Dominion had never encountered a species they knew nothing about. "Send 3 cruisers to test their defenses. If these humans want to die protecting refugees, we'll accommodate them." The 3 Dominion ships approached the Zilani moon with weapons powered and shields raised. They expected to destroy the orbital platforms quickly and force a surrender. Instead, they found themselves fighting technology that seemed to learn and adapt. Captain Danny Wright commanded the first human defense platform. He watched the enemy cruisers approach and activated weapons systems that were part machine and part living organism. "All stations, this is Defense Platform Alpha. Enemy ships are in range. Beginning engagement." The platform's biomechanical guns fired energy beams that adjusted their frequency with each shot. When the Dominion shields blocked the first attack, the weapons automatically changed to a different type of energy. The second volley punched through the enemy shields and damaged their hull armor. "What kind of weapons are those?" demanded War Commander Thax as he watched his ships take damage. The human defense platforms were using technology his ships could not counter. Every time his cruisers adapted to one attack, the platforms switched to something different. The battle lasted 18 minutes. The Dominion cruisers destroyed 2 defense platforms but lost 1 ship and had 2 others badly damaged. For the first time in his career, Thax was facing an enemy that fought back effectively. He ordered his ships to retreat and wait for the main fleet. 6 hours later, Admiral Stone's human fleet arrived in the system. 47 ships dropped out of hyperspace and immediately began deploying for battle. Jake Morrison watched from the Zilani moon as Earth's finest warships took position between the moon and the Dominion fleet. Admiral Stone opened communications with War Commander Thax. "This is Admiral Stone of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are ordered to leave the system immediately. The Zilani are under human protection," Thax replied with anger in his voice. "I am War Commander Thax of the Dominion 3rd Battle Group. This system belongs to the Dominion Empire. Surrender now or be destroyed." "Counteroffer," Admiral Stone said calmly. "Leave now, and we won't destroy your entire fleet. You have 1 hour to decide." Thax cut the communication and turned to his officers. "These humans are arrogant for such a small species. We outnumber them and have superior firepower. All ships prepare for battle. We'll crush them quickly and then deal with the moon." The space battle began when Dominion fighters attacked the human fleet's outer screen, but instead of the easy victory, Thax expected his pilots found themselves facing tactics they had never encountered. Human ships fought in small groups that supported each other and seemed to anticipate every Dominion move. Commander Lucy Brooks led a squadron of human fighters against twice as many Dominion craft. Her ships were smaller and faster than the enemy, but that was not their main advantage. All fighters, this is Brooks. Remember your training. They fight like a machine. We fight like humans. Use that. The human fighters broke formation and began attacking in patterns that seemed random, but were carefully coordinated. When Dominion pilots tried to follow one human ship, they found themselves being attacked by two others from different directions. The enemy formation broke apart in confusion. Meanwhile, the main fleet battle was developing unlike anything in Dominion experience. Admiral Stone's ships did not stand in neat lines and exchange fire. Instead, they moved constantly using hit-and-run attacks that struck at weak points in the Dominion formation. The human industrial ships stayed behind the battle line and worked frantically to build replacement fighters and ammunition. When a human ship was damaged, it would retreat to the mobile factories for quick repairs. The Dominion had never faced an enemy that could replace losses during the same battle. War Commander Thax grew more frustrated as the fight continued. His ships had more guns and thicker armor, but the humans seemed to be everywhere at once. Every time he concentrated his forces to attack one target, the rest of the human fleet would hit him from a different direction. The battle's turning point came when Sergeant Mike Torres led a boarding party onto a damaged Dominion cruiser. The enemy crew fought hard, but they had never faced humans in hand-to-hand combat. Torres and his Marines moved through the ship's corridors using speed and aggression to overcome superior numbers. These humans fight differently than other species, reported the Dominion captain before his ship was captured. They don't retreat when outnumbered. They attack harder. They seem to enjoy fighting against impossible odds. Jake Morrison coordinated the combined human-Zilani defense from the Moon's command center. The Zilani had overcome their fear of violence and were using their medical technology to keep human crews fighting when they should have been dead or unconscious. Wounded pilots were healed and sent back to their fighters within minutes. Elder Zara worked alongside human medics to treat casualties from both sides. "Your people fight with great courage, Captain Morrison," she told Jake. "But they also show mercy to defeated enemies. The Dominion crews you capture are surprised to receive medical treatment instead of execution." As the battle raged above the Moon, Jake realized that humanity was winning not because of superior weapons or numbers, but because of something the Dominion could not understand. Humans fought harder when they were protecting others than when they were protecting themselves. The final assault began when Admiral Stone led his flagship directly at the Dominion command ship. War Commander Thax ordered all remaining ships to concentrate fire on the human admiral. But Stone's ship was supported by the entire human fleet. Dozens of ships surrounded the Dominion flagship and pounded it with everything they had. Jake joined the boarding party that captured Thax's ship. The Dominion commander was found on his bridge trying to send a final message to his superiors. Jake stopped him and listened to what he was trying to transmit. "The humans do not fight like other species," Thax was saying. "They do not fear death when protecting others. They adapt faster than our computers can calculate. They turn their weaknesses into strengths. Recommend immediate strategic withdrawal from this sector. These humans are too dangerous to fight with conventional tactics." Jake looked at the defeated Dominion commander and felt no satisfaction in victory. Good people on both sides had died in this battle, but the Zilani were safe, and the galaxy had learned that the Dominion could be stopped. War Commander Thax's final transmission before his ship was destroyed sent shockwaves through Dominion space. For the first time in centuries, an entire Dominion battle group had been defeated by an unknown species. The message would change everything. The news of War Commander Thax's defeat spread across Dominion space faster than the Empire's leaders could control it. For over 1,000 years, the Dominion had been unstoppable. Species either surrendered immediately or were crushed within days. The idea that a small unknown fleet could destroy an entire battle group was impossible to believe. But the evidence was undeniable. Thax's final transmission had been intercepted by dozens of Dominion outposts. The message was clear. Humans were unlike any enemy the Empire had ever faced. They fought harder when outnumbered and seemed to have no fear of death when protecting others. Supreme Commander Gorvac read the intelligence reports with growing concern. The Dominion controlled half the galaxy through fear and overwhelming force. If other species learned that the Empire could be defeated, there might be rebellions on thousands of worlds. "Find everything you can about these humans," he ordered his staff, "and prepare withdrawal plans for the outer rim systems. If we cannot defeat them quickly, we must avoid them completely." Meanwhile, the Zilani moon had become the center of something unprecedented in galactic history. Within weeks of the battle, other species began sending secret messages to the human fleet. The Torvani had been hiding in asteroid fields for decades. The Krell lived on ships that never landed on planets. The Wandani survived in the ruins of their destroyed cities. All of them had heard about the species that defeated the Dominion. Jake Morrison found himself overwhelmed by the response. Every day brought new communications from peoples he had never heard of. All of them had the same basic message. They wanted to join whatever alliance had beaten the Dominion fleet. Jake worked with Elder Zara and Admiral Stone to create something that had never existed before. President Turner announced the formation of the Free Alliance in a speech broadcast across known space. "Today we offer membership to any species that chooses cooperation over conquest," he declared. "The Alliance will protect those who cannot protect themselves and stand together against any force that threatens freedom." The first interspecies council meeting was held on the Zilani moon 6 months after the battle. Representatives from 12 different species gathered in a chamber built specifically for the occasion. Jake had been chosen as the Alliance's first ambassador, and he looked out at the diverse group with wonder. The Torvani delegate was a crystalline being that communicated through colored light patterns. The Krell representative was covered in thick fur and spoke in subsonic tones that required special translators. The Wandani ambassador was humanoid, but with 4 arms and skin that changed color with their emotions. Despite their differences, they all shared one thing: hope that the galaxy might finally be free from Dominion tyranny. "We have all suffered under Dominion rule," Elder Zara addressed the council. "Some of us lost our worlds, others lost their people, all of us lost our freedom. But now we have something the Dominion fears: unity." Admiral Stone presented the military capabilities each species brought to the Alliance. The Torvani had energy weapons that could cut through any armor. The Krell were master engineers who built ships that never broke down. The Wandani were scouts and spies who could gather intelligence anywhere. Combined with human adaptability and Zilani biotechnology, they formed a formidable force. But Jake knew the Alliance's real strength was not military. It was the idea that different peoples could work together as equals. The Dominion ruled through fear and forced obedience. The Alliance grew through friendship and mutual support. That difference would determine the future of the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Parker established the Alliance Medical Corps, combining human doctors with Zilani healers and representatives from other member species. "We're learning that every species has something unique to contribute," she reported to Jake. "Torvani light therapy can heal injuries we thought were permanent. Krell engineering can build prosthetics that work better than original body parts." The Dominion's response to the growing alliance was swift and brutal. They began attacking any system suspected of supporting the rebels. Entire colonies were destroyed, as examples to others. But instead of crushing resistance, these attacks only made more species want to join the alliance. Chief Engineer Ben Hayes worked with alien technicians to create new types of starships. The Alliance fleet grew rapidly as member species shared their best technology. Human industrial capacity was combined with Zilani biotechnology and Torvani energy systems to build vessels unlike anything ever seen. Jake often returned to Earth to report on Alliance progress. The planet that had once been isolated was now the center of a growing galactic community. Children learned alien languages in school. Human artists worked with alien musicians to create new forms of expression. Scientists from dozens of worlds collaborated on projects that benefited everyone. But Jake's favorite place was still the Zilani moon where it all began. The hidden refuge had become a fortress world, and the Alliance capital. Keth now served as the Zilani representative to the Alliance Council, and worked closely with human engineers to develop new technologies. "Do you ever regret saving one lost human?" Jake asked his friend as they watched construction of the new Alliance fleet. Keth's translator converted his musical laughter into human speech. How could I regret something that saved us all? You humans have a saying about small actions having big consequences. I think saving your life was the most important thing I ever did. The memorial wall was dedicated 1 year after the battle. It contained the names of 800 humans and 300 Zilani who died fighting the Dominion fleet. Jake stood before the wall with survivors from both species and thought about the price of freedom. Elder Zara spoke at the dedication ceremony. These names represent more than casualties of war. They represent the moment when hiding ended and fighting back began. Because of their sacrifice, countless billions will never know Dominion slavery. The ceremony was interrupted by urgent news from the Outer Rim. 3 more Dominion battle groups had been defeated by Alliance forces. The Empire was retreating from dozens of star systems as member species liberated their own worlds. What had begun as a rescue mission had become a galaxy-wide revolution. Jake received reports that Dominion Supreme Commander Gorvak had been replaced by someone willing to negotiate. The new leadership was reaching out through intermediaries to discuss peace treaties and territorial boundaries. After 1,000 years of expansion, the Dominion was learning to accept limits. The final scene Jake would always remember was the launch of the first joint colony ship. Built with technology from 6 different species, it was designed to seek out peoples who still needed help. The ship's mission was to offer sanctuary to refugees and membership to anyone ready to stand against tyranny. Captain Sarah Wilson commanded the colony ship with a crew representing every Alliance member species. As Jake watched the vessel depart, he thought about how one act of kindness had changed everything. The Zilani had saved 1 human because they believed all life was valuable. That belief had spread across the galaxy. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the Alliance space station that orbited the Zilani moon. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see ships from dozens of worlds coming and going. The scared refugees who had once hidden in caves now welcomed visitors from across the galaxy. Elder Zara joined Jake at the window. She was very old now, but her eyes still showed the kindness that had made the Zilani save a dying human pilot. What do you see when you look out there, Captain Morrison? Jake watched a human transport dock next to a Torvani lightship while engineers worked on a new experimental vessel. I see what happens when good people decide to help each other instead of hiding from their problems. I see hope. The Alliance had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, saving one life can save an entire galaxy.